If you're passionate about something that can either lead to a product others want to consume or a skill others wish to have, we have the foundation of a successful business, assuming we know how to monetize it. But how can we know what we are genuinely passionate about? In this video, I will introduce you to the system I created to answer this question, how I explored my interest through a 3-step process and how I validated these by going through a 40-day long period of systemized reflection. So without further ado, let's dive into the system. They're nice. It's a 2-part process essentially. Part 1 involves identifying my interests, compiling a list of things I truly, genuinely care about. Here are 3 steps of doing this. That doesn't look like 3, it looks like 4. How do you do 3? No, that's 4 as well. Okay. Step 1, writing down whatever came to mind. And one thing that I found quite powerful are social media algorithms. Twitter, Instagram Explorer, YouTube home feed. I think it's true what they say that big tech knows us better than we know each other, and we can kind of counter-exploit that, right? By creating our interest list. Then I was also thinking about what did I like as a child, 10 years, 5 years ago, and that gave me already a pretty long list of interests. The second step was making a list of influential people. Then I defined what I believed their interests to be. Apparently this is correct grammar, so I want to know what their interests are, and then also add those interests to my list. My script is terrible. Because maybe they do things that I don't even know that I would like those because I just never tried them, but I at least know how these people are while they are doing it. So I think it's powerful. And the third one was about seeking input from people that know me very well. I asked 2 questions. Number one, if you have to describe me in 1 word, what would it be? And then I added the question, what are my interests? So as a result, we have a comprehensive list of interests that are now worth prioritizing, ranking them, and then validating them, and then putting them into practice. For that, I created a simple Notion template with the goal of not only finding potential sub-interests, but also rating those interests based on 4 parameters. To keep things simple for this video, I've only included poker and entrepreneurship. And the first filter is how likely am I to be satisfied with this in 10 years from now, with options for low, medium and high satisfaction. This is obviously highly subjective, but it forces me to contemplate like my current feelings. Synonym for contemplate, to consider. Yeah, okay. That's more like me. I'm not using those words. Okay, where am I? Now this is highly subjective and definitely changes in the future, but it forces me to consider my feelings. Next, I considered if it's outsourceable. This is especially important in the long run, but also for sub-interests mainly. If I want to be an entrepreneur in XYZ and I don't really like accounting, it's not really a problem. The third filter is monetization, and this is twofold. For 1, can I even monetize it? And for 2, will I be financially satisfied? If I'm a jazz saxophonist and I don't want to record any songs and I don't want to play concerts, I will not be financially satisfied. The final filter is social conditioning. I just considered if there are people in my life who are pushing me towards a certain interest and it's not actually my interest. One question I often ask myself to consider whether or not I'm conditioned by society is this something my nan would be proud of? If the answer is yes, I need to think deeply about whether this interest aligns with my personal values or if I'm just trying to make someone else happy. No offense to her, but somehow this helps me to understand if this is something I personally care about. So with the help of these filters, we should now have a winner and is ready for validation. I used a process that was inspired by Dan Koe. So the first step of validating this interest is to expose ourselves to the content versus buying the standard book about it, following some influencers on social media in general. The goal is not to take this interest and now sticking to it for 10 years already. The goal is to do this for 40 days. In order to make this work for me, I created 3 documents. The first document I called Amazing Takeaways, where I would just write down anything that caused some excitement. The second list is basically a whole folder of notes. If I would read a book, not everything really interests me, but it might still be valuable, so I want to write down certain parts. The third document is essentially journaling. We can't measure mental well-being without writing down how we feel about certain things. So the goal here is to write down how do I feel in the end of the day after exposing myself to this content. Not only learning about all these things and using this for documents is not enough. We also need to start a mini project, because knowledge without putting it into practice is no knowledge at all. Quote by someone. Also for journaling, it's very important to also write down how do I feel while I put this into practice. Now why 40 days, by the way? Because we want to wait until the original motivation kind of fades away. Now the ideal outcome of all this is that after 40 days we don't even think of pursuing another interest and we just keep going. Then we know that we found what we want. But Even if we don't, it's not a problem, because now with a system in place, there is no need for suffering anymore. We can just say, okay, I just found out that this is not for me, but here is my list of interests, which I can maybe even extend, and then start the validation process again. There will be new doors that open up, and then I have to ask myself, is this something I like? And then I can use the system and validate again, will I be happy in a few years from now? So I strongly encourage you to try it out. I don't think it's a waste of time. It helped me a lot to understand who I am. If you're new to Notion and you want this template, it's nothing fancy, but I can send it to you in Discord, of course. I hope this inspires you, and I'm looking forward for feedback.